Hi everyone, and welcome back to season 3 of Commerce Meets Law, a podcast where we talk about various commercial topics and how they interact with the legal profession. Today's episode is a really exciting one with Sophie Dimitra Fengaras, who started out as a successful lawyer working both in the UK and Dubai, and then transitioned to now become an entrepreneur as she works with ambitious women who are in a transition phase of themselves, trying to outgrow their niche and old identity and looking for clarity to evolve their business in an authentic way, just like Sophie has done for herself. In this episode, we firstly discuss Sophie's journey to becoming a lawyer, how and why she decided to then step away from the legal profession, how her journey into entrepreneurship began, and how she decided that she was finally ready to jump into it full time, which is a big decision for lots and lots of people. We also talk about why so many women do struggle to pitch themselves and their businesses, and what Sophie is doing as a business and identity coach to try and change this. And finally, Sophie's goals for the future and her plan to make all of those goals a reality. Today, Sophie's position is one that many people want to get to and many people are aspiring to. But I really hope that what this episode does is to shed a light on all the micro steps that Sophie took each and every single day, which have allowed her to be in this position today, as well as all the experiences that have shaped her and shaped the work that she does with her clients. Just a quick request before we get into the conversation. I would really appreciate if you could kindly give this podcast a follow and a rating on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to these episodes, as it really helps Commerce Meets Law reach more listeners. Without further ado, I thoroughly hope you enjoy this episode, and I'll see you right at the end. Hi, Sophie, and welcome to Commerce Meets Law. Very excited to talk to you today about all things law and beyond as well. But before we start, we always have an icebreaker on the podcast, which is, in your opinion, what is your superpower?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. What is my superpower? I would say my superpower is my creativity. So when I say creativity, it's all about self-expression, how I like to use my voice, how I like to stand in front of people, how I like to guide my clients, how I like to make content. So creativity is like a very broad term, but for me, that's all about bringing something quite unique to this world, which we'll get into a bit later. It's why I left the legal practice world, because it just didn't align with my natural kind of gift. But I also think it's also an ability to read into people as well, like their energy, how they feel, the emotions, what they're going through, which again, maybe didn't go quite well for me in the legal industry, but something that led me into a very different path. So I would say those are my two superpowers.
Yeah, I love that. And, like you say, whether or not it helped you in the legal industry to definitely shape who you are today and shape your profession now. So before we get to that, I guess moving back slightly and talking a little bit about your journey as a lawyer, can you tell me a bit about sort of your main interests when you were growing up and when you first thought that, the legal profession might be it for you?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting question that you mention all of this, because I've been going inward quite a lot recently, and
Yeah.
unpacking more of my childhood and what led me to law. And I think there's quite a few different dimensions to it. The more logical answer to your question is I chose law. Well, first of all, to be completely honest, I chose it because I knew I'd have a very stable life, I'd have a very stable income,
Yeah.
and I'd be well set up on that side of things. I came from a family that didn't have much, so I experienced what it was like to live in scarcity, not have much money, and kind of hold and grasp onto things. And I didn't really want that for myself. So I thought, okay, well, let me become a lawyer. And
Mm.
the other part of it was I definitely did, and to some degree still do have a love for the academic side of law. I was very into history when I was a kid, and I had a very low level of confidence. But there was one person in my life, well, the first person in my life who gave me some kind of hope and confidence that I'm actually capable, and that was my history teacher. And I started doing really well. I started, like, my grades started improving because before that they were really low. And yeah, he said to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so good at history. I think you'd be really great at law." Because I just
Mm.
loved the academic side of things and like writing essays and unpacking the facts, etc. So
Mm.
that's another reason that led me to that. So it was predominantly a mix of those two things. It was we all do it because of the money, right? Well, not all of us,
Yeah,
but money can be a driving factor. But also,
for
I
sure.
genuinely loved it, and I loved studying it at university as well. I had the best time of my life. The other side of the coin, which is something I think people have to go on their own journey with, but something I've gone much deeper into because I've had to because of my speaking career that I'm developing, talking more about my own experience, my own journey and path. I was actually very extroverted as a kid, so I loved performing, I loved singing, I loved acting, I loved doing all of those things.
Yeah.
And there were different points in my journey from when I was a child to my teenage years that shut me off
Mm.
from that path. So whether it's maybe someone laughing at me or someone making like a passing comment
Yeah.
or maybe someone saying, "Oh, like what are you going to use that for? It's useless."
Yeah.
And because of that, I shut those sides of me off and went down the logical route, which is why, with coming from a low income family and all those things, I'm like, okay, well, I want to create a better life for myself. So this seems like the right path for me. So
Yeah.
there were these two sides of me, right? The extroverted
Mm.
performing side, the side that is
Yeah.
like wants to stand out and be in front of a crowd, but then the other side, which is obviously more academic as well. So, yes, to answer your question, that's how I got into law. And it's also how I started developing my journey a lot deeper, which kind of led me back into the more extroverted, like performing, speaking kind of side very, very recently now in my life.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's important to talk about the financial aspect, especially I think, if you come from a home which wasn't particularly financially secure
Yeah.
and you've seen your parents struggle and you've seen them tackle those challenges and you think to yourself, that's the one thing I don't want. I want to be financially secure because I've seen what not having that brings. And I think it feels like a bit of a taboo to speak about that, but I think that is the reality that a part of the reason lots of people do go into careers like law or finance is because you
Yep.
can have a so-called stability, which can be questioned now, in today's times. But I think that's the reason that a lot of people do go into it, and I think that is really important to address for sure. And like
Hmm.
you said, it's that like logical path, and it's the one where it's like, well, singing and dancing, where's that going to get you? But law, that has that's got a set
Exactly.
path, that's got a route, that's got steps, that's people have done it before, and the other parts it just seems too, it's like, oh, it's a shot in the dark, what could happen. I
Yeah.
think yeah, that's definitely the advice that I've definitely had that growing up too, so I can relate to that for sure. And I guess you decided to choose the logical path, at least at the time, and to shut down those voices for a bit. Can you talk to us a bit
Hmm.
about sort of your training contract and what aspects of it you sort of enjoyed, and what aspects I guess continued to ignite that feeling in you that maybe this wasn't the right path?
Hmm. Yeah, so I did my training contract with Stevenson Harwood and had honestly it changed my life. I had the best 2 years.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that firm, I wouldn't be where I am today because I was very blessed that for half of my training contract they moved me to Dubai. So it was during COVID,
Mm. Yeah.
no, sorry, just before COVID, they asked me if I wanted to go to Dubai. And what it's like when you're a trainee, you're logically
Yeah.
thinking, okay, where am I going to qualify? And I didn't know. I had
Mm.
no passion for my first two seats. They were great. It was great experiences, and I had fun and learnt a lot. But they weren't what I wanted to do. So I thought,
Mm.
oh gosh, I need to stay in London so I can figure this out. So when I was
Mm.
coming up to my third seat, they said, "Do you want to go to Dubai?" And I thought, okay, well, Dubai is a great hub for litigation. And so
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I still want to keep trying litigation. That seems like a more aligned path for me. So I thought, okay, well, let's just go
Yeah.
out then. Let's see where this journey takes me. And then, yeah, and then COVID hit 2 weeks after I landed. And then I just stayed there. I never came back. So,
Mm.
yeah, if it wasn't for Stevenson Harwood, I would never have ended up in Dubai, which changed my life in many ways, not just in kind of my legal job, but it led me to a different path. So, and then that, I mean, it was amazing. I had the best time, and the office there, felt very much like a family, and I got a lot of hands-on experience because when you go abroad and you do a secondment, the offices tend to be
Yeah.
smaller, of course. And so you get more hands-on experience. You're in a different country, which is incredible.
Mm.
And it just opens you up in so many ways. So very, very lucky that I know not every firm offers secondment, but for anyone listening, if you love traveling and you want to maybe leave the UK at some point and see more of the world, it's just such a great way to do that. So all
Yeah.
in all, it was a fantastic experience.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I think there is definitely a growing legal market out in the Middle East as well, and obviously
Yeah.
with everything going on right now, I think it's kind of created a different sense of fear, but I think overall you've seen the picture of like those markets really growing, and generally Asia and the Middle East also it's not just the West having that legal dominance now, so I think that's going to be really interesting
Yeah.
to see in the next couple of years, and like you say, I think moving anywhere on your own to a new city, it really kind of builds up your confidence as well. And you
Mm.
then kind of stayed in Dubai, and obviously that kind of led to your next path. But I guess can you tell us a little bit about your decision to decide to stay there and kind of practice law in Dubai for a couple of years, and how
Mm.
different that was to being in London?
Yeah, I think at the time I was qualifying, Dubai was still new and upcoming, and
Mm,
the attitude when I flew out was very much like, why would you go to Dubai? London is the best place to practice law. So if
right.
you want to come back, you're going to find it hard to come back and
Yep.
practice, right? Because they like some of the kind of, let's say, the older crowds see Dubai
Yeah.
as more inferior for practicing law. So, and obviously, me being me, I don't listen to those opinions, so I'm like, oh, I'm going out. See you later.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the difference is, first of all, lifestyle is amazing. Can't
Yeah.
beat around the bush about that. It feels more like a holiday. At least the first few years of my life felt like a holiday because
Mm,
you work hard during the week, and then at least on the weekends you have the sun. You can go out and see friends, and it really like energizes you a lot. Again,
yeah.
coming back to the experience, very, very hands-on because you're in smaller teams. I had a lot of great experiences when I was with Stephenson Harwood, and I would run cases um, with the main partner and lead arbitrations, and it was just so invaluable. It really developed my
Mm,
confidence a lot more. And I think it makes you a really great lawyer because you learn civil law, which is the UAE law system, and then obviously you have English common law. So you have this
right.
like dimension of both, and
Yeah.
you don't need to study UAE law, of course, but there are boundaries between what you can and can't obviously do in your advice. But like it just makes you a more well-rounded lawyer, in my opinion. And it was, yeah, I was in shipping, which never stopped. So it's like, there's always stuff going on. Always stuff is always very urgent in the shipping industry.
Yeah.
So I worked a lot. I worked incredibly hard, very late nights, but for most of it. But I really did enjoy those first few years. It wasn't like, oh, I hated it, or that's why I left, or oh,
Yeah.
this is horrible. Like genuinely, the first I would say 2 years were really, really great. And I was 23 years old, I think, when I qualified, which is I think the youngest age. So uh,
Mm,
it was mind blowing that I was 23 and they moved me out to Dubai, and now I'm like earning great money, living in a great country, very safe country. And at the time, shipping was my dream. It was my dream to be a shipping
yeah.
lawyer, so I was doing a lot of that.
Right.
So yeah, it was for that part of my life, it served me very well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that point you touched on is so important of like just because you enjoy something now doesn't mean you'll always enjoy it, and just because you
Yeah.
don't enjoy it anymore doesn't mean you never enjoyed it. And I think it's important for people to hear that. 'Cause I think when you hear people like leaving the law, sometimes people are like, well, you must have just not liked it from the start then. And it's like, that's not the case. But your priorities change, you know, your
Yeah.
interests change. And that doesn't mean that those firms or those places didn't serve you well. It just means that, you know, you changed as a person, and that, therefore so did your interests. And I think that's an important, especially now when we're going to have longer and longer careers. Like, it's okay to enjoy something for a bit and then decide to go
Yeah.
do something else. And I guess that happened to you last year, and you decided to, you know, kind of leave that so-called traditional path of being a lawyer and go into the big bad world and, you know, do something for yourself. So can you tell us a bit about that decision, what the, you know, what factors there were, and whether you felt any sense of fear before you decided to jump into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it was a long journey. I didn't decide overnight that I wanted to
Yeah.
leave. It was probably it was an accumulation of 4 years. So 2021 in 2021, that's when I first realized I didn't want to be a lawyer forever. So that's when would that have been? Probably not not too long after I qualified, actually. I just
Mm.
started having these like intuitive feelings of, is this it? Like, is this really it? Because just for me personally, and my energy and knowing who I am and what my gifts are, working late every single night at an office just wasn't
Yeah.
it. And I started getting those first whispers come through.
Mm.
And I just took that as a more than self-exploration journey. So I
Mm.
wasn't at that point like, oh, I'm going to leave my job, but it was more, okay, well, let me just see what else is out there for me. Because as I was, I remember it so clearly. I was walking on the Dubai Canal after a long day at work, walking across the water, staring up into the high-rise buildings and thinking, okay, if it's like if this is not it, which scared the hell out of me, what is it? And I had no other skills. I had no other interests. I didn't explore anything else in my life. It was just law. So that feeling
Mm.
alone petrified me. If the rug was pulled under my feet, I had nothing else.
Mm.
So at that point, it was okay. Well, let me see what else I enjoy and let me try a few different things. So I just, I went on a bit more of like a kind of mindset journey, listened to podcasts, read books, expanded my mind a lot more. And that's when I found a love for coaching. And then I went into that kind of route and got some qualifications in that. So that was, at this point, I'm doing all of this on the side. I'm still very much a
Right.
lawyer, still very much working,
Right.
from Monday to Friday. And then on the side, I'm just doing all these different things. So I came across coaching, started exploring that. I actually also have my own podcast, which I need to start back up again. I got into the
Yeah.
podcast stuff as well because I really
Yeah.
enjoyed meeting people, interviewing people, and also sharing my own kind of wisdom. So, like, that is over like a 4 year period. Like, this is not overnight. I
Oh,
could have done it
okay.
quicker, for sure. But for
Yeah.
me, it just took me 4 years of like exploration, figure out what I love, taking it from there, trying to actually make some income from the coaching. And then fast forward to 2025 or end of 2024, the feeling of, I, I like to say, for me, it felt like suffocation. I don't mean like a suffocation of the places I was working at or the people I was working with, but it was like an internal feeling of,
Yeah.
this is just not for me anymore. Because once you find what you love, it becomes very hard to live a double life and put
Mm.
on a mask. And that's how I felt. I was very much keeping my head down, doing my work, being as quiet as possible. And then I'm in the evenings, I'm coming home and I'm like, recording, I'm expressing myself on the microphone, I'm helping out clients and doing all these things. And it just didn't work for me living that double life. So it all came to kind of, it all came slowly, started to come before me, I would say, beginning of 2025. Started feeling this pressure to like get myself out basically and leave my legal career. Very, very terrified because I was so drawn and stuck to my six-figure salary and living in Dubai.
Cool. Yeah.
I was terrified what my parents would think of me and if they'd be disappointed. And, being a business owner and going down that route involved being in the unknown, which felt very scary for me at the time.
Mhm.
So it wasn't easy. There were a lot of fears. And even after I left there were a lot of fears, probably for the first like
Mm.
6 months.
Yeah.
So that period of my life was not easy, I must say. It was, yeah, in some ways it was amazing because now I was free, but I didn't feel free because I was still stuck in my own fears. And I think
Yeah.
that's the part that catches up with you. So yes, to kind of draw that all back, it wasn't an overnight thing. It took me 4 years to finally leave and find myself again
Mm.
and finally feel happy and loving what I do every single day.
Mm. I think that's the part that people don't see. They see, oh, they see a post or something,
Mm,
they kind of see, oh, someone has left this, and that they've just decided, they've got up one day and just gone, yep, no, not doing it anymore. But it doesn't work like that. And, there's so many little micro steps that you've taken in those 4 years in the lead up to actually knowing whether you can do it. And so there's a level of like, yes, you've got to take the plunge, but it's also being realistic with what you have, what you want to have, where you want to be financially, and so many of those things. I
mm,
guess for someone listening who's maybe, some of our audience are also people who are either at NQ level or, they're young professionals, maybe they're thinking about what they want to do next in their careers and in their lives. Can you tell us a bit about, in terms of the coaching aspect of it, a little bit of actually what you do and
yeah.
how you started with convincing people to be clients? Because I think it's one thing, looking at someone and seeing that they're a coach, and the other hand thinking, okay, how have they actually made a business out of this, and how are they making money out of it? So can you tell us a bit
Mm,
about how that brand building journey began and how you landed your first client?
mm. Yeah, it wasn't easy. Uh,
Mm.
like building any business, it's not
Yeah,
easy. I
of
think
course.
the coaching industry specifically, there's a lot of potential. I mean, not potential is not the right word. There's a lot of success to be made in that field.
Mm.
The most important thing is that you're crystal clear on exactly what problem you're solving for someone and really crystal clear on your ideal client. For me, like
Mm.
from where I left my job, my coaching business looks so different to what it is now. I've
Right.
pivoted probably about 3 or 4 times. My client changed 3 or 4 times because I was just really
Yeah.
trying to find my alignment. I left my
Right.
job at a point where I had no business. I had no business plan. I didn't know how to sell to people. So I very much started from zero.
Mm.
So the most important thing with it is you just really need to be crystal clear on who you're helping and what problem you're solving. In terms of
Right.
how you get clients and all those things, um, building your personal brand, uh, content, all of that stuff is really, really important in the early foundation. It's important for anyone, I think, nowadays to grow a personal brand, not just people that, have businesses, but anybody. But that's a very long journey and process, to put yourself out there online, talk,
Mm.
lead, get on LinkedIn. I remember when I first posted on LinkedIn was when I obviously left my job officially and my contract ended. And I was so nervous to post because
Mm.
I'm thinking, what are people going to think of me? What are my ex-colleagues going to think of me? And da da da. I mean, now I don't care. Like I post whatever I want. But at that point, I was so nervous, just to post on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. So you don't have all the skills straight away, but you develop it over time. So what I do
Mm.
now is I support female entrepreneurs who want to become confident at selling, and I
Mm.
also support them in getting clear on their purpose and mission so that they
Mm.
can land bigger opportunities. So like podcasts like the one we're doing today, speaking opportunities, brand deals, all that kind of stuff, because I'm a big believer that coaching is only one aspect, but if you can take your gifts once you know what they are and bring them on a much wider scale, then that's when you can make a real difference in this world. So uh, that's my belief, and I'm very ambitious, and I love to always think bigger and do bigger. So that's the type of women that I work with now. It's
Mm.
female entrepreneurs, but I do also have clients who are in the legal industry, and I support them, just helping them really like find their own voice, get clarity on their path, whether that's in legal industry or whether that's doing something completely different. Two of my
Mm.
clients are, one of my clients is an associate. My other client, she's a paralegal. So, so you still attract people from different walks of life anyway. And I still very much love supporting those people because,
Yeah.
you can really lose yourself in very logical, high intense environments like that. And it's very important that you have a coach that can support you through that path. So yes, coaching is it's become such a big industry, and I think it's only going to continue that way for the many, many years to come as well.
Absolutely. And talking a little bit about, your kind of the clients that you coach in terms of focusing on female entrepreneurs, and as two women sat here, I think that we know that there are certain challenges that, women do face either from something that's, kind of like evolutionary, but also just like what society has been like for such a long time and trying to break those
Yeah.
stereotypes. So I guess from the clients that you do have, what do you notice that female entrepreneurs tend to struggle with most? And as a coach, how do you sort of try and break that? 'Cause I think that's something that I'm sure a lot of the women listening can definitely relate to.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one of the biggest struggles, which is obviously a big part of my offer, is how women sell themselves. So in the legal industry, we don't learn these skills. We don't learn anything entrepreneurial at all.
Yeah.
You just learn law and that's it. So for anyone that decides to leave or maybe do something else, you have no sales experience. Sales is not just how you find clients, it's how do I get job opportunities? How do I land
Mhm.
speaking gigs? How do I land contracts with, I don't know, consultancy contracts or freelance? It's everything. It's not just quite about clients. So for a woman specifically, we have been taught for a lot of our lives, and our ancestors have been taught to please people, stay quiet,
Mm.
and just take the safe route, just please other
Mm.
people and stay in your own lane. And
Mm.
with selling, you have to put yourself out there. You will get rejected by people, just like, people may be applying for training contracts, understand. You will get rejected. It's just part of the process. And as a
Yeah.
woman, we struggle, we're not used to rejection because we're used to waiting for, you know, let's say you're used to waiting for a man to come to you or offer you something. We struggle to speak up, right? Because we're afraid of the consequences of that.
Mm.
So that's why women struggle with sales. And also, it really ties into, I'm sure you've seen a lot of those statistics and stuff where women apply for roles only where they're like, what is it, 90% ready or something like that, whereas men apply for roles
Mm.
only when they're like 60% ready. So inherently, we just have a lower level of
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
And the way that trickles into sales is, well, sales is linked to income, isn't it? Income and impact. I like to say income and impact. So
Absolutely.
when you're blocked and you can't sell yourself and tell people why you're an amazing asset to their team, to helping them change their life or to their own business, you can't make money, you can't make impact, and then we block ourselves from what we're great at. So
Mm.
that's the biggest thing that I see. There's obviously a lot of other things that I can talk about too, but um, this would have to be the main one. And I just think we're taught to just stay silent and not use our own powers and voice. And this is the process now of us coming back to that and finding ways in which we can bring these aspects out of ourselves. And it exists in the legal industry as well, women maybe not speaking out so much or
Yeah.
feeling uncomfortable to speak out about certain things going on. It's still a male dominated industry at the end of the day, even though you do see more women coming through, which is great. There are still aspects of the corporate world that exist in that sphere. So you can see it play in a number of fields, not just business. And so, yeah, that's why this work is important for me, because it's not just about signing clients or helping women find clients. It's more about inner confidence and inner conviction and
Mm.
having the ability to impact more people in this world, because it's not about us, it's about helping others.
Absolutely. And you see it even in terms of like funding for startups and whether that's when it's
Yeah.
headed by a female founder versus then there's still a disparity today, even though there's stats that actually female founded startups do better in the long term. And just because there is, I guess, like you say, there's those like age-old stereotypes and societal norms that we really need to continue breaking. And as women, we all need to, build that confidence, and that is really
Mm,
what's going to help everyone together, regardless of the profession you're in. And like that then trickles down to sales, and whether you're pitching a product or pitching yourself, which is
yeah.
equally important. Whether you want a promotion, whether you want a raise, whether you want to move to a different industry. And yeah, like as lawyers, we don't really get taught that, especially not in your kind of junior years, and even, you know, to kind of quite a senior level. I guess coming from your space, having been a lawyer and then now into this kind of coaching industry, for you, when did you first realize, how you actually can pitch yourself, and what were some of those challenges that you faced when you were trying to build this yourself, which has now led you to be able to do that for other people?
Yeah, in terms of the challenges, I think with all of this, it's limiting beliefs. So
Mm,
my limiting beliefs, predominant ones were, how can I make a living from this? How can I find clients from this?
yeah,
Um, how can I survive? How can I survive without my
yeah,
legal job? And what else can I do? Because I just wanted to help people, still make good income, um, and feel free, have freedom. And I
mm,
was stuck in my own limiting beliefs as to how can I do that? How is that even possible for me? So there were a few things I did to really help myself overcome these things. I would follow a lot of people online that have already taken that path and watch
yeah,
their content, interact with them, because then that reinforces the evidence in my head that it is possible for me too. There's no difference between
absolutely,
me and Stephanie online. We're the same, well, we're different people, but there's no reason why I can't get there myself, right? So I think
yeah,
you have to follow people that have taken that route and be in
hmm,
communities of people that are already doing the things that you want to do. So,
yeah,
getting into new networking events, signing up for, like a different clubs where you're now actually expanding your network at the same time
yeah,
and learning from people that you want to be like. So those things helped me a lot, just really to understand, okay, there is a lot of opportunity for me out here. Um, and then I think the other biggest challenge for me was definitely income, because I'm a very logical, again, I can be a very logical being. And for me,
yeah,
losing that stability was quite scary. But I was very fortunate that I don't have any responsibilities, I don't have children or anything like that. So it was the perfect point for me to leave and then find my own feet again. But luckily, I did actually um, have like a huge chunk of savings, which was a
hmm,
blessing because I think if you don't have that backup, it's very difficult to then just suddenly
yeah,
leave and build a business and not have something coming through. So I was very clever in the sense that I just had a hunch that I was going to leave at some point. So let me just be very sensible with my income and save it now because then I'll need it at
yeah,
some point. So that helped. That helped me for some part. So working on my own money mindset beliefs was a big one too. I had to really like understand what it meant to earn my own money now, but also let it go and actually spend money and know it's going to come back to me again. As an entrepreneur,
mm,
this won't make any sense unless you've been through it yourself because
yeah,
you start to understand like, okay, well, I'm not in a corporate job anymore. So I'm not just clocking off at 6 o'clock and knowing that my money's going to come through. It's so different. So I would
yeah.
say those were the main challenges for me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And then I think, like you say, that idea of that instability, that constantly being there, and versus the freedom that you get. There's pros to it, but equally you've got to be aware of some of the challenges that you now have, having not having a 9 to 5 any longer, and then therefore being
Yeah.
very smart with your money when you are in that process, so that you've got a good level of savings. I guess on the flip side, I whenever I read your LinkedIn posts, and they're so beautifully written, and I always see the way that you kind of talk about your earlier journey and talk about your journey now, and the
Yeah.
way that you kind of explore that and express that. And something that you talk about as well, like you were mentioning at the start, is like reflecting on your own journey and how you've changed as a person. So as I was thinking about it, and I wanted to ask, what's something that's really surprised you about yourself throughout this journey, like from going from a lawyer to an entrepreneur, something that you've realized
Mm.
about yourself. that some quality that you had which you didn't know before?
Yeah, I think there are two things I'd say here. So the first one, what did I learn about myself? I learned how brave I was because
Yeah.
in my eyes, I'm doing something that I've seen a lot of other people do because I'm in those networks with sorry, not lawyers. I'm in those networks with entrepreneurs. So I'm like, oh, well, this
Yeah.
is normal for me to just leave now and do something else. So I learned that I was actually very brave to take that step and also to stick with it and not go back to my comfort zone, which would have been, let me just find another legal job or something in that kind of field. I very much just, um, I was like, no, there's no other option. Like I can't, there's nothing else for me. I've left that and I know that I'm taking a different route now. So I think it's the courage, um, to embrace the unknown and know that the opportunities will come your way
Mm.
and to just always lean into discomfort at each step. So I'm a big believer in
Yeah.
discomfort. You know, you have to do things all the time that take you outside your comfort zone. I'm still doing that to this very day myself. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing, which is not necessarily about me, but it kind of links to me, is I was shocked by the amount of opportunities out there that I hadn't seen in my like lawyer role. Because in when I was
Absolutely.
a lawyer, I had just four walls, and I never saw anything beyond that. When you
Mm.
like step outside of that and you go into entrepreneurship or pursuing something else, you start seeing there's so many possibilities out there. How you can
Mm.
earn money, how you can make impact, you know. And so I've done a lot of different things, not just my coaching, but I also do other things as well, which I really enjoy and give me income. So now I'm like expanding my income streams. I have I'm doing several things at the moment. So I'm shocked because I just wouldn't have known that if I hadn't taken that step into the
Yeah.
unknown to then see, oh my God, there's a massive universe of amazing things out here that I can be doing. And even to this day, I'm still very grateful that I get to wake up when I want, control my calendar, take calls, do work when I want, and work from home or from a cafe or whatever I want to do because I built this life for myself, you know. So
Mm.
it's mind blowing. And I wish and I hope more people see that are stuck and maybe not sure what to do with their lives right now. There is so much potential and opportunity out there. And you just have to expand your mindset and put yourself in more new situations to see them.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it takes me back to that, when you were saying you're walking down that Dubai Canal and you were thinking, all I know is law, what am I going to do? And I
Yeah.
think so many of us at university or wherever, and it can be outside of law as well, but you feel like you have this set path and that's all that you're going to do and you're never going to look beyond that. But actually, when you step out, there are so many things out there. I guess if you could go back to that, your younger self, perhaps when you were at university or you just started your training contract, and you didn't at that point consider, actually, could I explore other things? If you could go back to that point and maybe try and tell yourself, I want to reduce this 4-year journey and perhaps, make it a bit shorter, what do you think you would have done at that point, which might have led you to this point even quicker?
That's a really good question. Um, I think I definitely would have, I would have prioritized my own personal growth journey a lot
Yeah,
more. I didn't know
yeah,
what that was back then. I didn't know I didn't know uh, like, I didn't know who Dr. Joe Dispenza was, for example. I didn't know what manifesting was. I didn't know,
yeah,
I never listened to podcasts. I never had all these things. So I never really
yeah.
knew I forgot who I was. I didn't know myself, really. I was just
Mm,
a shell of someone who thought, okay, I need to just become a lawyer and this is my life. So I think I would have done that a lot earlier. I would have
mm,
prioritize my own personal development, which is hard though because you're studying, you're working long
yeah,
hours, it's intense. Like I know how it is. Like it takes me back to those days where I was doing the LPC, which we were just speaking about before we started recording, and I did the fast track. It was so intense that I had no time
mm,
for anything else. Like it
yeah,
was just constant. But anyways, let's just put timing aside. I would prioritize that a lot more.
yeah.
Definitely building a personal brand, I think, is so key. Now,
Yeah.
I know that there can be fears around doing that on LinkedIn because you're like, oh, what is my boss going to think of me? Or what is my firm going to think of me? But you can build your personal brand around you being a lawyer. You can build your personal
Mm.
brand around, your personal life. I mean, who cares? Like, you have to build a digital presence. I don't think it matters whether you're going to be an entrepreneur or not. That's the way the world is
Absolutely.
moving. And
Yeah.
opportunities don't come from CVs, and they won't come from CVs any in the future. They will come from having an online presence, and they come from, yes, all the skills that you've developed along the way, but then people are far more likely to, in the future, employ someone who has invested in their personal brand, in networking,
Yeah.
in LinkedIn, as opposed to someone that hasn't and
Yeah.
has just done nothing. So you have to be proactive, I would say. So I think if I did some of that stuff and maybe explored the coaching a little bit earlier, then yes, I might have been more advanced in my journey right now. And just also like research what else is out there for me. What other side
Yeah.
gigs could I potentially do? It all starts from curiosity.
Definitely. And I think, we're in that age now where it's important to have and think about your income streams and having more than one because, nothing
Yeah,
is really ever that stable anymore. And even more so than perhaps for our parents or grandparents. And I think remembering that is so important. You are going to have multiple careers in your working life. And the quicker
absolutely.
you can start developing multiple skill sets and, like you say, having a digital presence, I think the better for all of us in terms of learning actually what other skills do you have if tomorrow you don't have this so-called stable
Yeah,
job that you want or that you've had for a number of years. And you spoke a little bit about all your goals, and I know you talk about it on LinkedIn as well, of like really putting it out there and manifesting it.
yeah.
So can you tell us a bit about some of the highlights you've had in this entrepreneurship journey so far and some of the things that are going to happen in the future?
Yeah, I love that question. Yeah, I'm really big on manifesting. That's something that I only really started learning deeply when I became an entrepreneur because
Yeah.
life moves incredibly fast when you're an entrepreneur. Uh, Things change in your life very, very quickly, and there's so much opportunity, so manifestation is a really important tool for all of that. So yeah, so the first thing is my speaking career, which I'm doing a public speaking competition at the end of March here in Toronto,
Amazing.
which I'm very excited about. So I've just been prepping and
Yeah.
getting ready for that. That was very important for me because it's the start of my own journey, start of getting myself out there, getting on a stage again, which I used to do when I was a child, which we spoke about earlier.
Yeah.
So for me, it's my process
Yeah.
of now coming back to that side of me,
Love
which is
that.
part of my purpose, and getting onto more stages and developing my speaking business because public speaking is a business, right? In of itself, it's another income stream.
Yeah.
So starting that journey has been really, really great. And then leading on from that is number two, networking, which I keep banging on about. It's so important that you invest in networking. Again, LinkedIn is a great place for that. But going into in-person networking events too can really change your life. And I've invested in various spaces that have given me opportunities.
Yeah.
One of which is we're currently working on it in the background, but uh, leading a community of women here in Canada. So we're currently preparing all of that. It will be launching later this year. Again, not something I foresaw
Amazing.
myself ever doing, but in a good way because I'm like, wait, me? You want me to do it? I'm like, what? So yeah, so I'm excited about that as well because it's a leadership kind of role. Again, it's another income stream for me as well, but it's more about me building my personal brand a lot more, helping more women, leading a whole
Yeah.
movement here in Canada, which is kind of bizarre because I'm a British woman and came here only a few months ago. So it's a very interesting journey for me. So that's currently in the works, and I've obviously got my coaching business, which is still I'm still developing and growing, still very much in the early foundations of that. And those are really like my main kind of focus areas right now. And I just think you just gotta really tap into what it is that you're passionate about because
Yeah.
um we're so, and I've fallen into this trap so many times. Like you're so driven by money that you choose a path that isn't aligned. It might lead you to income, but it doesn't lead you to happiness and fulfillment. And I just think
Yeah.
you have to really follow what you're interested and passionate in. And from passion follows income, from passion follows opportunity. So you have to take those steps to get you to that point, you know.
Mm.
And people are like, oh, how do I do that? How do I find something I'm passionate about? Or, oh, this goal feels like so far away from me. You know, I want to be on TEDx and I will be on TEDx multiple times, right? But I could put myself into my own head and say, oh, well, how do I do that? Like, no, that seems impossible. You take
Yeah,
small steps every day just to get to that point, you know, like
absolutely.
every single thing you orchestrate leads you to that point. So you don't need to know the how. The how is what kills people. It's just, what can I do today to get me closer?
Yeah.
What do I need to listen to, right? That's going to get me closer to that step. So, yes, it's very exciting, very excited for what's to come. But as I said, it's not been easy. I would lie if I said, oh, I left my job and things were sunshine and rainbows from the first month. It wasn't like that. It was tough. It
Mm.
was really, really tough. And I've had a lot of support from mentors and coaches that have helped me along the way, because you don't grow by yourself. You grow with having the right support systems in place too.
Absolutely. And, I think that's what people, want to hear. They want to hear that real aspect of like, deciding to leave a legal career and deciding to become an entrepreneur. And obviously that's aligned with your values. That doesn't mean that it's just like you just snap your fingers and it works. There's constant efforts little by little every single day. And I think
Hmm.
that breaks the myth of manifestation as well, because there's so much debate on like, it's just, you can't just put something out. Well, you can, but you've got to take steps every day to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's really the key. We always finish with a quick rapid fire. So I've just got a final three questions. I'm really grateful for all your time today. So the first question is, what is the best advice you've ever received?
Oh gosh, yeah. Um, oh, that's really tough. The best advice I've ever received. Um, well, there's been a lot, but I feel like, because I've just mentioned this, I might be repeating it, but it is really the best advice for me personally that I received, which is the point about following your passion and income will follow. So that is something that, so she's a very big inspiration to me. Her name is Daniela Bauman. She is a keynote speaker. She's a TEDx speaker. She's very big in the self-development space. And she always says to us, follow your passion first and then income is going to follow. And then when you're successful, make sure you give back to others, right? Don't hold it for yourself. And I just thought
Yeah.
that's so beautiful, because so many of us are just driven for money, success. But like, why? Why do we do it? Really, it's
Mm,
not about us. It's about having the resources so then we can spread it back out to other people.
absolutely.
Through this podcast, through leading communities, through having that coaching program or whatever it is. So
Mm.
for me, that always resonates very deeply, and I hope that it resonates with people that listen to that as well.
Yeah, I love that. And you're a great example of that. So I love it. The next one is, if your client described your coaching style in one word, what would it be?
Oh, in one word. Oh my gosh. I would say enlightening.
Oh, I love
Enlightening.
that. I
Yes.
love that. And the final one, because we were talking about, you moved to Dubai, now in Canada. I guess, what are the top three travel destinations on your bucket
Ah.
list that you really want to visit?
Oh, on my bucket list. Okay, the first one is Cape Town, which
Hmm.
is actually meant to be happening at the end of this year because my friend is getting married. So very
Oh,
excited about that.
amazing.
Finally, I
Yeah.
have an excuse to go. So yeah, the first one's Cape Town. Second one, I definitely want to visit Costa Rica. I'm pretty close to Costa Rica now, so I just have a interest to go and give it a little visit, because there are a lot of digital nomads living out there as well.
Oh,
Um,
yes.
Third one, oh, let me think. Oh, I just love Asia, and I've seen a lot of Asia. I don't know, it's my favorite continent. But I think the one place I think I would like to actually go to Japan because I haven't been to Japan. So I would like
Mm.
to go back and see somewhere new in Asia. But I also really, really love like Thailand, Bali, which I've been to, and I would love to go back to. So
Yeah.
that's a tough one. So many
Yeah,
places we want to
I love
see.
that. So many places. Yeah, and
Yeah,
hopefully now, with this newfound entrepreneurship journey, hopefully you can do both those things
yeah.
and still continue working. So that's amazing. But on that note, Sophie, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was such a pleasure to speak to you, learn about your journey, see everything you're doing, and wishing you the best for all the things that you've manifested. I know they're all going to come true. So best of luck for them.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for having me and saying back to you on your path and your journey as well, which is just starting, which is so, so exciting. And I love that you're doing this podcast. It's incredible that you're building your personal brand yourself and you're just a leading example for all of your listeners.
Thank you so much. On that note, thank you so much for listening to this episode, and a massive shout out to Sophie for coming on Commerce Meets Law. I do just want to make a quick comment. I know that, if you're listening until this point of the episode, then this is always the part where we do a little bit of behind the scenes. And one thing that I really wanted to mention and talk about is the fact that perhaps you've noticed that a lot of the past episodes have been about people who have began their journey in the law but then have decided to go elsewhere. And I just want to mention that that is not, me suggesting, as someone who is about to step into the profession themselves, that is not me suggesting that, that is a path that you should take, or suggesting anything of that sort. But I guess the point of these episodes and this podcast in general is to show that just because you have decided to become a lawyer today, or any profession for that matter, doesn't mean that that needs to be your reality forever. What jobs like lawyers, or any of those kind of regarded professions do is that they give you choice, they give you ownership, they give you lots and lots of transferable skills that may serve you for a while, and that profession may, kind of serve your interests for a while. But if at some point later you decide that you do want to go into something else, hopefully these episodes give you an insight into how you can do that. As you've noticed, whether it's Sophie's journey today, or Harry, or Kyle, or any of our past guests who have decided to leave the legal profession, you notice that they continue to use the networks that they built whilst they were in law, the people that they met, the lessons that they learned, the experiences that they gained. So it's not like any of that goes away, and it's not like any of that is suddenly redundant once you've decided to leave the legal profession. But what it does give you is that it gives you an insight into the fact that, our working lives are going to be really, really long, and we have a long, kind of professional journey in front of us. And that means that we can choose to take certain good parts of what we're currently doing and decide to shift elsewhere. And, that really helps us kind of open our mind as well into all the various career opportunities that there are out there. So hopefully, these episodes show you that, as opposed to a prescriptive narrative of the fact that, you need to leave the legal profession in a number of years or anything of that sort in order to be happy or content or successful. That has worked for our guests who have talked about that, and that's fantastic. But there's also lots of people who continue finding new and, different opportunities within the legal profession, or within the profession that they're in as well. So there is no right or wrong here. Hopefully these episodes just give you an insight into the fact that you do have choice, and there are lots of different paths that you can take, depending on your purpose, your passion, your interests, and your priorities as well. So hopefully that doesn't come across as me, trying to suggest a particular narrative, but rather to just give you insight into all of the various options out there. If you did enjoy this episode, please do let me know by emailing commercemeetslaw@gmail.com, or with DM on Instagram at commercemeetslaw. And you can also reach out to us on our website, which will be linked down in the description. Finally, for access to my content, do check out the Commerce Meets Law YouTube channel and our TikTok. For now, take care, goodbye, and I'll see you very soon on the next episode.